Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Roy Coughlan, serial entrepreneur and podcast coach. Please enjoy Roy Coughlan. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Roy Coughlan, serial entrepreneur, podcast coach, and so much more. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent. Me too. I'm excited to chat about the creativity that goes into your experience of podcasting and coaching others to podcast. But before we get there, let's take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
So I'm Irish, originally from Cork, which is in the south of Ireland. And for the last 18 years, I'm living in Łódź in Poland. As you mentioned, I'm a podcast coach. So I'm helping new people that want to start a podcast or existing podcasters to kind of improve what they're doing. And also people who want to do a podcast tour if they're promoting their business, coaching, or book. I get them on good shows that are relevant to what they do. I'm a partner in a company, VA.World, that we're virtual assistants. And we've got a different way of doing that. I suppose I can touch that on in a minute on the creativity of that. And another one, braingym.fitness. And that's about creativity as well.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like you are just tapping into creativity in all areas of your life that you use. But I'm so curious, what does it mean to you to be creative?
I suppose thinking outside of the box, that you're not doing the norm or doing what people expect. And just being different, and just kind of, for me, it's always kind of finding a better way of doing things or finding a solution to a problem. That's how I kind of define creativity.
I love that. And so how does that show up in your life? Thinking outside the box, defining, new solutions to problems, figuring that out. Where does that show up?
I suppose it shows up constantly, and even from a young age. I mean, like, everything that I do, even in working, when I was in Ireland, I was working for a mechanical contractor. I was always looking for kind of solutions and looking at what was happening on different sites and how was this problem happening, and then I kind of create systems. So I like, by doing systems, same with the podcasting. It's like, yeah, podcasting is brilliant, but as you know, there's a lot of time involved in it, and it's like, hey, this is taking me too much time. So then I was kind of compressing that and finding ways how to do it better and shorten my time and make it better. And so daily, I kind of use the creativity.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And how many podcasts do you work on at a time?
Well, I have 6 podcasts. 5, like the Polish one now has kind of taken a bit of a break, but I'm planning on bringing it back. But there's 5 now that are active, that are getting shows out, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy the interviews. I edit them myself. So, like, you can outsource that. A lot of people outsource that. I don't. I like to actually listen again, because sometimes you're engaged in a conversation, but you're present. And then when you're listening yourself, you're going, that was really good, or whatever. And you're enjoying it yourself, as well as making show notes. So, like, what I do from my creative side is I'm listening to the show, then I'm making all the timestamps of different things. From that, then I'm actually thinking of how can I get a good title. So I might take a point from that, and usually then, and what I'm doing now, because I'm constantly evolving, is I'm using YouTube, and I'm putting it across, and then YouTube, because I use like there's TubeBuddy, and there's another one, vidIQ, and that gives you kind of, it uses AI, and it gives you suggestions, and a search engine optimized. And I'm going, oh, I like that. That's better. Or I might make a mix of it. And I'm trying to get the best kind of search engine or title that will grab your attention. So I kind of.
I love that. And I'm so curious, how did you get started in podcasting from Ireland, working with mechanics, and now in this world?
So what happened is, I was doing a load of real estate, got wiped out. I was the president of a lot of companies, so I was personally liable for $5 million. and yeah, had over 100 court cases, but saw loads of corruption. And from that, said, okay, I went to an event. What's your quest? And I said, okay, my quest is to actually expose all of this. And I
Mm.
hated public speaking. So then when I came back, I said, I'm going to learn how to be a better speaker. So, just went into Toastmasters, joined, done loads of competitions, started winning competitions, got into the final of 5 countries, done an open TEDx, done open comedy, and became a distinguished Toastmaster after 3 years. And then I went to, like, there was an event that was talking to me, like, during
Yeah.
the time as I was doing the Toastmasters, a guy actually done a workshop on the podcasting. And I went, oh, this is good. And I said, hey, I can do this. So the first one was the speaking podcast. And it was like to help people become better speakers because I realized, hey, I had this fear. And, like, even, I don't know, can you touch on the creativity? But sometimes we kind of use a crutch saying, I'm not good at this or I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And by actually getting rid of that story and just saying, I need to do this, and then just watching TEDx videos, reading books and stuff like that, and just practicing, you can overcome anything. So I would encourage everybody, don't have a thing, I'm no good at that, or that's not me. You can do anything you want. And I'm living proof of that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you have such a strong drive to do anything and believe in yourself. Was that something that you had from a young age, or is that something that just kind of came after going through everything you've gone through?
No, from a young age. I mean, at 9, I was washing cars. I was delivering leaflets, going around that, doing gardening. I remember we used to call it a bob a job kind of thing. I think scouts used to say that. And this woman had her doing the garden. And we were like there nearly the whole day. And she gave us something like 25 cents or something like that. And I was like, I do not like this, not doing weeds and stuff like that. But washing cars and stuff was okay. Then at 11, I started doing newspapers. And I done that up to college. And then with the money from that at 14, I bought a lawnmower. So then I was going around cutting grass. Another time when I was 18, I was kind of buying, I think I was 17, I started driving motorbikes. But then I kind of started understanding how to kind of take them apart and stuff like that. So I was buying and selling a few motorbikes, and I could buy a motorbike, paint it up a bit, make it look a lot better and make a couple of $100 fast. So, yeah. So it was kind of always in me to be kind of
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
Was that something that you saw your parents doing as well, or was this, or older siblings, or was it just like that drive for you?
I think for me, I always had that drive, but kind of, my dad worked as a chief projectionist, but he was a photographer as well, so he used to do weddings on the side. So
Yeah.
at the odd, so I saw that my mother used to put the albums together, so there was a bit of kind of entrepreneur in the house, but not that much. But I mean, everyone looks at me and I read 100 books a year and everything, and they're kind of, I don't know, I'm a different string from the rest of them. Yeah.
Ah, I get that. Absolutely. Now, I imagine things as I am assuming having court cases, that's not easy and it can be very challenging to get through life sometimes. But how do you face some of the more, you know, bigger challenges with creative mindset or creativity?
So, like, there's two things that I done for that. So, one was the meditation. It was kind
Huh.
of how to deal with basically emotions and because I lost everything, and it was
Hmm.
like, so then you were like thinking of the negative. So I started thinking of grateful. What am I grateful for? So when you think of something grateful, you're attracting it. And the other thing is the act of forgiveness. So I
Mm.
was able to think of the people and go, all right, look, you ripped me off or whatever, and I forgive you. Some were very big. And
Yeah.
what I did is I brought them back to the child. And
Mm.
I'm hearing people talking about that, but I done this 10 years ago. Like,
Uh-huh.
and I brought him back to the child. I said, we've unconditional love for a child. You just, when you see a baby, you just, you get weak. It's beautiful when a baby holds your finger or just smiles at you. And I said they were like that. And circumstances around them made them who they
Mm.
were. So they could have had drug addict, they could have been abused, or they could have been
Mhm.
parents taking 3 jobs and they were just leaving them hanging around with the wrong people. So by doing that, I forgave him. But what it did is it actually released it from me. So
Mm.
I know a lot of people have anger and they're, especially regarding inheritance and families falling out and everything.
Hmm.
Let it go, because if you're thinking of that and it's burning a hole in you, they're not thinking of it. So what you do is give forgiveness, and you will be actually relieved of what you're doing.
Hmm. Yeah. I guess I hadn't really thought of the forgiveness part of gratitude and how they go together. Yeah. for
And you
people.
actually mentioned about
Yeah.
the court cases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So by being in court, what I learned is I have to take control. So
Mm,
instead of giving your power over to an attorney or lawyer or whatever you call them in the different countries,
yeah.
most of the time they're getting billable hours. They don't really very few care about you, to be honest. And
Mm,
I've kind of saw that. And I won most of the cases with my information, just paying attention and just slipping a piece of paper, say this, they just said that they were wrong, and catching them out each time. So every big case that I
mm.
had, it was because of me. And I had they took a criminal case against me as well. At one stage, they were trying, and it was totally fraudulent, everything they'd done. They were trying to get me 3 years in jail, and I got it cleared and everything. But it was like a year going through all court
Yeah.
cases and stuff like that. But what I was like, what's going on that they're able to do that? So then I started studying sovereignty, common law, UCC. And
Mm,
I realized the power of that, the power of the signature and everything. So I
mm.
think, and it's going back to creativity. It's like always be curious. I mean, when I hear people saying, "Oh, I'm bored" or whatever, I'm like, can you sell your hours that you're bored with? Because I wish, I wish I could have 10 of me because there's so much knowledge that I want to take in. So with the court cases, what I did is I've read over 20 books and I'm still learning. I'm still,
Mhm.
what I'm doing is one of my podcasts, The Awakening, is exposing fraud and graft, but I'm getting guests on and then I'm
Oh,
able to ask questions. So
yeah.
I'm learning as well as helping the listeners. And it's just, I mean, you know yourself, like you end up talking to people and you find out stuff. And the beauty of podcasting, people don't hold back. You ask them any question, they'll tell you anything.
Yeah,
You know, if it's regarding market or anything, you're going, I mean, if you had to pay for this, it would cost you a fortune, but people will tell you anything. And so that's the beauty of it as well.
it is. I love that. I love the kind of lifelong learning trajectory that you are experiencing and have hold of. I'm curious when kind of getting into podcasts and talking to other people and the how do you come up with your questions for people? Is it a long process of like digging into their background and or do you just have questions that you're curious about and they answer?
I think a lot of it is because I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a
Mm,
lot of books, I have a
mhm.
lot of knowledge myself anyway.
Yeah.
And I will research, just say I have a guest that's coming on. Like tonight now we're doing a live with John Perkins. So, he's a fairly famous guy, Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yeah.
So I look at some other videos
Okay.
and I'm just kind of extracting things that I go, okay, that's good. And I could look at social media and just see what's kind of relevant.
Hmm.
Whoever it is, I look at different things. Or if I'm reading a book, they might just mention one thing in a book. And as I'm reading that, then I'm making a note. Because look, what I do now is with my farm, I get people to send me the book. Right, I
Mm.
used to go away and buy it. And I said, why am I paying for a guest that's coming on my show? So it's like, and I tell them I don't want a digital copy because I want to step away from the computer because we're spending
Yeah.
too much time in digital. So I said, send me, and they're happy to do it. Like,
Yeah.
so I have a load of, and the strange thing about it is I'm reading books that I would never buy and I'm thoroughly enjoying them. And it's
Yeah.
brilliant. But then when I'm reading through it, I'll see something. They might just briefly mention something, and I
Hmm.
could go off on a tangent on the podcast, and it mightn't even cover all my questions. It just goes into a conversation. And the thing is, I'm always in flow. Like the previous me, when I was younger, if they were going around, say, the class talking, my brain just switched. Or even when I was a bit older, working for like when there are three or four people from me, my brain just farts, and I just kind of go into panic mode. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, like I couldn't tell you what the previous people said, but I know that I'm just totally present. And by
Hmm.
being totally present, I'm able to listen exactly, and then I'm able
Hmm.
to kind of follow up or whatever. And I'm good at kind of, I don't know what you call it, kick back, like if we discuss something at the start, that I can bring it back in again
Yeah.
and make a point to it. So that's, I think, through meditation and just being present and everything. But and I
Hmm.
suppose being confident speaking as well compared to before, where you stand in class and you just start shaking and stuttering and everything. And I mean, I think the schools actually damage a lot of people by the way they were done. You're learning a
Yeah.
language and they're
Yeah.
getting you to learn new words, stand up in front of 30 people, and
Hmm.
and people just laugh at you, and so you just associate. I don't like this experience. Then you
Right.
just stop thinking that you want to stand up in front of people.
Yeah. That's a very valid point. In terms of that present moment, I mean, I believe creativity really happens in the present moment. So practicing present moment awareness and being able to be present allows our creativity to, in my belief, to show up bigger and in more depth almost, because we're having that in the moment experience. I'm curious what your thoughts are on like the present moment and how creative you feel in the present moment when you're interviewing someone or when you're working on something for yourself.
Well, the main thing is I don't have distractions. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people know they think they can listen to something and they have the phone out and everything. So I'm totally present. And regarding mindfulness, I mean, when I'm reading,
Mm-hmm.
I try to go, especially in the spring or the summer, I'm outside and I'm looking at the birds, I'm looking at the ants, I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at everything. I'm just totally present with what's going on. And I
Mm-hmm.
think by being totally present, then I'm totally present with an interview that I do.
Yeah. Yeah. For people where they struggle or aren't familiar with mindfulness or present moment focus or awareness, what are some tips that they might use to start to have a little more present moment time in their life?
I'd say find a hobby that
Mm.
is something that makes you totally present. For example, painting, because
Mm.
you're not thinking of the bills as you're trying to paint something,
Hmm.
or play the guitar or whatever, because you're not playing the guitar going, oh, my credit card bill is due or something like that. You're just, so by being,
Yeah.
and even if you look at some people, I know, say if they're playing golf or whatever, some people go, how can you go around? I think some people are kind of, is like mindfulness when they're playing golf, or even fishing, because you look at someone,
Yeah.
they're fishing away and you go, there's something wrong with him. How can he stand there for 4 hours? But they're being present. So find something that works for you. And even say an entrepreneur, a lot of the time they get too deep into it and then they get into trouble. And what they do, they try to
Mm.
work harder. And I think that's the time that you have to step away. Try to get it. If you can do a week, get a week. But even if it's a weekend or a day, step
Mhm.
away from it all. Do something that you love. And then your
Mm.
creativity starts kicking in again. Because when you're deep in the swamp and you're trying to, with the fire extinguisher, trying to out all these fires, your brain doesn't work. You're not creative, and you have to understand that you're in that and to step away. And by
Mhm.
even just like sometimes like people are saying if they're watching the money, oh, don't go to the cafeteria because or go to Starbucks or wherever, whatever place you go to, because you're saving so many $30 a month or something like that. But if that's where you go and you get creative and you just enjoy the presence, and then you could be around somebody or just listening to conversation or just looking at something, you hear someone mentioning something, you could get that idea of an invention or anything. So
Mhm.
it's like, be careful who you follow, because sometimes they're telling you things. What you need to do is tap into yourself, because there's 100 different ways. There's probably a million different ways of doing everything, and you're trying to figure out who should I follow. You need to touch within yourself, and you will see what fuels me, what sucks my energy. Same with being around people. If you're going hanging out with people, do they lift your spirits, or do you feel, totally tired when they're gone? You like cut the ties, get rid of people, and then you
Yeah.
start attracting the right people. And when you've direct,
Mm.
plus if you're with creative people, I mean, a lot of the friends we're talking about business ideas and everything. We're not gossiping. We're not talking about who won the match and oh, how many million did he make. That's not. I mean, yeah, it's interesting to some people, but that's not
Yeah.
for me. And like I get creative by being around other creative people.
I love that. I also love the what you were just talking about, turning inward and bringing it back to yourself to be inspired or to have that connection to your own experience versus looking externally or outward to find your creative voice, because that's not your creative voice, that's someone else's creative voice in my world, I believe. I'm curious, when you were discovering your own creative voice, what were those kind of hiccups or challenges that you came across before you felt like, oh, this is my creative voice and this is how I show up in the world with it?
I think people pleasing would be one of them, that we
Mm.
tend to not. And no, it's like if somebody does something, I say it as it is. I don't
Yeah.
tiptoe, and I've
Yeah.
never regretted it. And we think that, oh, we have to do this because they're a
Hmm.
friend or family or whoever it is. And it's like, yeah, you don't want to rock the boat, or if they're in a company and you don't want to step on someone's toes. And if someone is at not being nice, don't tolerate it.
Yeah.
Just when you stand on your own feet and your
Mm.
own ground, and you know what's right and what's wrong, and call it out. Always call it out. You will never feel bad. And
Hmm.
if you want change in the world, you have to call it out and not just kind of assume the next guy is going to say it and then
Right.
be complaining about it, behind their back. Like I don't like talking behind someone's back. I'll say it to their face.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I had done that. The younger me had done that a lot sooner.
Yeah. The younger you held back or thought to do
Bite your
needed.
tongue.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't do that to do what you wanted. Yeah. I mean, you strike me as someone who has so much curiosity and so many things are interesting. But I'm curious who or what in your current life inspires you to keep going?
I just have a drive myself. So I'm always kind of driving myself. So it's reading the books. Nobody tells me read the books. Nobody tells me look at the podcast. I mean, I listen to a few of Joe Rogan's when he's got interesting guests. I'm not interested in the comedians that he brings on. I'm not interested in the
Yeah.
MMA. It's not topics for me. Some people love that,
Mm-hmm.
but he brings on some very good guests. And Patrick Bet David, that's another one that I like listening to because
Mm.
he's really trying to expose a lot of the corruption. Brings on very interesting guests. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning a lot what's going on with that. But I mean, like if I look at people that inspire me, it would be my mother because I mean,
Mm.
she's just very strong, determined, and just she's got your back as well. And that's a nice feeling that somebody is 100% behind anything you're doing, is always there to protect you and look after you, even
Mm-hmm.
though even though it's like I should be protecting her. I know that she's always caring about me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love the mom piece. I'm curious, growing up, did you said your parents, your dad did photography on the side and your mom was making up the books for weddings and such. But I'm curious, what other creative pieces did you witness through your parents when you were growing up? Were they, was it the kitchen creativity or was it how they,
I think it's
music,
humor in Ireland. I think
humor? Oh,
because we're just always either scaring each other or just playing tricks, and so the Irish are very good at that.
yeah.
Just you're just constantly laughing and joking. So I grew up in a house like that, and
Mm,
like you have to be creative to think of something to do to somebody or play a joke. And even like my mother came for 3 weeks at
hmm.
Christmas, and my son was there, and it's like that's all we were doing was just playing jokes and hiding and scaring each other, and like I love that, and so I grew up with that.
I love that. Can you tell us a little bit more about like where that comes from in terms of, because it sounds like it is a large part of Irish culture,
Yeah.
that the kind of joking and scaring and having lots of fun and living your life. I'm curious, what's that history or what where,
Probably because the English were crushing us for hundreds of years, and it
yeah.
was probably they were looking for the always look on the bright side of life, and they just kind of out of that. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's totally different because I mean I've been to a load of countries, I've been probably 40 different countries, and
Yeah.
everyone, and even loads of guests and everything, when they know I'm Irish, they're going, "Oh, I was in Ireland. It was the best place I've ever been." There's so many people that say that, and they understand that, like, because I remember I went to Boston at one stage,
Hmm.
and I remember going into the store and they were like, "And how's your day?" And I went to answer them and they just turned around and walked away. And I was like, if an Irish person asks that, they're really asking you, So
Yeah.
they're, so you're having a conversation, they're really caring, and they're like, no matter where you go, you're in from whatever country and they're trying to help you.
Hmm.
And I wish all the countries were like that. But if you've never
Hmm.
been there, I'd highly encourage you to go visit and
Nice.
experience it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love hearing the cultural piece and the joy even in the challenge, turning something around. That takes so much creativity to be able to do that. And, you know, I can only imagine what that is like generationally to have that kind of passed down, that
And I
you
mean, like,
how you get through things.
if you look at the mindset, because everybody's gone through something.
Hmm.
And you cannot have two emotions at once. You can't have
Hmm.
negativity and positivity. So when you have it, just snap out of it. Acknowledge it. Don't try to deny it. Okay, yeah, I just had this
Yeah.
bad thought. And then think of something nice. Watch comedies. Find
Mhm.
something that, put a smile on your face. If it's listening to really good music, if it's dancing, whatever, find something and just because then you're no longer in that negative thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to circle back and you were talking about finding hobbies and doing something that you can be really present in. I'm curious, what are your hobbies that you do just for you that help you kind of tap back into yourself?
Well, I started doing painting, but I was doing it with my youngest child, and but cooking as well. I love to cook, and it's just like playing around, man. I didn't before. It was like I used to live off microwave food till I realized that they weren't safe, and
Uh-huh.
and I thoroughly enjoy the cooking process, and I think you're present with that as well, and you're kind of
Hmm.
playing around with spices and things like that. It's just going for walks in nature. It's like
Mm.
that's for me. Like I'm happy enough to go for a walk or just do something to step away. Like if I feel okay, the energy levels are down, or if I'm on the computer too much, I can
Mhm.
go away, go for a walk. And sometimes I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast or
Mhm.
something like that, and that just lifts my spirits, and everything is good then.
That's amazing. I love that. I love the cooking. How did you get into that if you were into the microwavable meals and then transitioned into actually cooking something? That seems like a big jump.
Yeah, I suppose it's like the speaking. I kind of had a story. I'm not good at cooking, and now even my mother kind of said, "Yeah, I'm a way better cook than her." Just I don't know. I just kind of like figured out different things like duck. I do a nice duck and just figure it out and kind of play around with it. And then you get a nice, okay, I can do this perfect. Like I don't burn anything. I just, I do, like even say chips, I do it in beef tallow. I try to do everything as natural as I can, get stuff
Yeah.
from the farmer as I can. I get
Hmm.
the potatoes from the farmer. And
Hmm.
by eating healthy and single food instead of processed food, I know it's giving me energy, which I think well the energy is that helps the creativity as well. So
Yeah.
it's combined. So by giving myself the proper nutrients, it all works around.
I love it. I love just the view and how things have completely changed. I mean, it sounds like there you are in a phase of your life that is very different than it used to be, and you had that drive and interest and curiosity to come over the hump, so to speak, to because I think oftentimes people just bump up against the challenge or a wall and be like, I can't do that. And you're like, no, no, I'm doing it. Even if it scares me, I'm doing it anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Well, when, if people feel like they aren't creative, or, I hear a lot, I don't have a creative bone in my body, or I'm not able to be creative. How would you encourage them to find their own creative voice?
When you tell yourself something, you'll start believing it. So then you'll
Mm,
actually live that life. So the first thing
hmm.
you do is never ever say you're not creative. You just
Mm,
remove that from your vocabulary. And then you
hmm.
find things, like I say, the painting,
Yeah.
musical instrument, whatever kind of makes you feel good. And then you'll
Mm,
do that. And then just, like say, okay, what am I looking for? Like start asking for things. I mean, some people say, oh, I get a download. You hear loads of people in the spiritual world say, I
sure.
got my down. To me, I think what it is we're like an AI and our
Mm,
head is a supercomputer. And
mhm,
all of the information that we've gathered over the years starts processing and we get these answers, which in turn is the creativity that we come out with.
mhm,
So it's like just if you say you're not creative, what are you doing to be creative? Are you actually looking at
mhm,
videos that's going to benefit you? Are you reading books? Are you listening to
mhm.
podcasts? It's not,
Yeah.
don't just think you're going to sit there and it's all going to come to you. I mean, if you look at a load of the entrepreneurs or anybody doing that, and when you tear most of the people that are actually doing stuff, they're reading more books, they're listening to more
Mhm,
podcasts. They're like the people that I know that I have really good conversations with.
mhm.
That's what they're doing. They're big
Yeah.
readers. They're continuous learners, and
Mm,
that's how you become interesting. And it's also, I think, how you get more creative as well because you're listening to so many ideas, and then you're reading something, and you go, "But what if this?" Or if you're reading something and you're looking at your business,
mm.
then you're looking at it from your angle, which the author isn't. And
Right.
because of doing that, you get creative with your thought process, and then you come up with a solution, or you might have a brilliant idea that will actually triple your business or create a new business.
I love it. Absolutely. I love the being really mindful of the words that you say to yourself and how you can keep that curiosity and your own creativity alive. And your viewpoint and perspective. So thank you for all of this. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Alive.
Oh, I love that. That is amazing. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to join me. If people want to learn more about the work you do, your podcast that you have out in the world, how could they go about doing that?
My 6 podcasts and all the business is on roycoughlan.com, or if you're interested in a virtual assistant, VA.World.
Perfect. I will put those links in show notes so people have easy access. And thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with me. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, so did I. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.